here's a shout out to our current patrons, Frederick, Dustin, Chris, and Heavy Guns. Thank you so much for your support. Every little bit helps, from getting a new paintbrush to some glue, even some paint, and just a coffee. It helps a lot. Also, check out our sponsors and affiliates. We'll have the links in the description. Baron of Dice, Monument Hobbies, Fenris Workshop, Battle Bling, and Proxy Wars. Some great products, so check them out. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Trident Wargaming podcast episode. That's right, today we're going to be hitching up with Bolt Action 3rd edition. We're going to be going through the book, some of the rules, mainly the new changes in the edition. Today with me, I have Jason and Dayna. How's it going?
Howdy.
Hello.
Very good, Rick. You guys doing good?
Oh yeah.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Very good. We had a little trouble on the start off of this episode because it's been a while. Mr. Andy's a little rusty, but we had a couple good laughs, so we're in awesome spirits. Never know, there might be a blooper reel coming up. But anyways, yeah. So today, Bolt Action 3rd edition.
Woohoo!
Exactly. I mean, these guys know I'm fucking jacked and excited for it. So, be pretty awesome. I've gone through the book over the last little bit that I've had it. It's looking positive to me. But that's why I have these guys on. So they're going to either like it or not like it. And they're going to let us know why. But I think for the most part, they're going to like it. So... and with saying that, we are actually not going to do a hobby, hangout hobby zone, as Jason would love to yell out, hobby zone, at the beginning of this, like we usually do, because it's probably going to be a bit of info coming at you. So yeah, to start off, from what you guys have seen so far or heard. How are you feeling?
Hit me, Andy.
How are you feeling about it?
Hit me.
Very good.
I am super excited, and I can say that most of the community down here is probably even more excited than us.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't know. It hasn't super taken off here, but I am getting some games scheduled in with a bunch of folk to start building up the hype even more.
I feel like there was lots of people kind of waiting in the wings, knowing it was coming, kind of slowed down their current Bolt Action games.
Yep.
In lieu of other games for now, waiting for this. So I wouldn't be surprised if you got a little hitch in their giddy up.
Yeah, once it pops off, right?
Yeah.
We have quite a few people that play down here, and a lot of them have kind of done that. They've kind of pushed Bolt Action to the side just a little bit until launch is gone and getting started, and focused on some of their other games. But the excitement is definitely still here. Like, there was a 3rd edition demo sneak a peek at one of our buddies' stores, and it was, pretty much 6 or 7 guys just sitting around, like, reading over the books and then trying to go through the steps. So it was pretty interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing here, is just contacting people and getting games set up and whatnot to show them what's the new mechanics and whatnot too, right? Via either myself, running it with them, or just being on the sideline and letting 2 guys go at it and play. So it'll be good. It will be a lot of fun. I hope it drums up new players as well, and then returning of the older players too that have taken a break, myself included, right? So should be good. But some of the changes, I guess we'll start off with orders. So some of the orders have changed just due to the mechanics of what's in the game now. Your fire, your advance, and your run are pretty much the same, but your rally now removes all pins. And
I like that. The pin mechanic is fun, but it can get tedious. And I think eliminating a role, especially since I kind of know they've added some other roles in other places,
yep,
helps keep the game streamlined. So I'm all for it. If they spend the turn doing that, why not? And there's nothing worse than passing your rally check and then rolling really low, and then you're just it's just a bummer for no real reason. I feel like you sacrifice your turn, you get your rally essentially. I think that's fair.
Yep. Your down order now is changed over to giving you an additional +2 on your cover saves. So cover saves are obviously a new thing in bolt action, and we'll go through that a little later on. But essentially, you're getting shot at, and depending on where you're sitting, you're going to get a cover save, and then by going down, you'll get an extra bonus to your roll. So that's going to be interesting. I know there's a couple people who were kind of humming and hawing about cover saves in general. They didn't care for it in a lot of other games. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to be anything super crazy, but it does bring in a different mechanic to the game, right? So, and I guess
it does.
Yeah. Sorry, when I heard about that and read it, I was definitely one of those people that was like, really? Do we need to have this in there? And reading through what was shown about it and how it works, like I get it, I understand why it can be brought in for the game mechanics, but I always liked the feel of the minuses to hit, because it felt like you could envision the shot being obscured or tree branches getting in the way. You could almost tell that visual story. The cover saves kind of is more of a mechanic rather than a piece of story that you can put in there. So I was a little off put, but I'm holding my judgment till I get that book in my hands.
Yes, I kind of actually like it. I still feel you can tell the story. You just have to get used to telling it after all the rolls instead of more immediate satisfaction. But I do like the kind of the ability to add some more nuance through, various units applying cover saves or negating cover saves, or, as well as instead of just to hit modifiers, it was just to hit modifiers and veterancy. So you're really quite limited. So this will add another way to nuance some of the units or weapons, maybe.
Right. Yeah, we'll see how it goes after reading parts of the book, and there are weapons that do ignore cover saves and situations that ignore cover saves. So it'll be interesting to see it actually in play. Going on to effects of pinning, it is still a -1 per pin for your morale, but now it's only a -1 on your shooting. So they don't actually add up for your shooting from what I was reading. Which leads us into the shooting mechanics here as well. So your basic to hit now is a 4+, whereas second edition was a 3, right? So you're rolling to hit modifiers now are, fire on move, there's a -1. In experience, there's a -1. Fire is pinned, that's your -1 there. point blank range, you get a bonus of +2. And you can still get the nigh impossible shot of the needing 6 followed by a 6 to hit.
Okay. You see, and what I like about that, though, too, by eliminating the former cover integrated into this to hit, is that in games with lots of cover, i.e., like Stalingrad fight, it felt like we were shooting a lot of pucks at the net and not getting a single goal, which can be, not as fun. It's more fun to see, even if I hit a guy and it ends up getting shrugged off. At least I can say, "Oh, I got a lot of hit." And to be fair to this metaphor, I guess we're shooting a lot of pucks at the net. They're not even hitting the net. They're hitting that end of the ice.
Yeah.
That's it. So now at least we can get shots on net, even if they don't score goals. So I feel like it will engage me more, especially when it's, you're slogging through Stalingrad and everything pretty much you need a 7 to hit. In the old, you're not hitting anything ever almost. So
Yeah, you're waiting for those point blank up close shots from across an alleyway, trying to get in close, which is kind of a tactic and a game mechanic all on its own. Getting in there, choosing whether to assault or whether to short range burst someone, especially when your terrain is pretty dense. So,
yeah, that's true for sure, and I hope that stays similar in a similar way with the cover saves. Just gives me the feeling of accomplishing something in the early part.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's interesting. Out of all those modifiers and whatnot, like, I'm good with all of them. I'm still, and I'm looking at this in a gaming aspect, I guess, kind of like a quality of life in the gaming world, is the, impossible shot of 6 and then needing a 6. If you want to cut down the time your game is, I tend to think that, hey, you know what? Maybe just get rid of that. Right? It just, I found in 2nd edition, we still had that same rule. And a lot of times, because of all your modifiers, you're needing that 7 to hit or whatever, and you're just rolling dice and you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, well, what are we doing here? We're playing with hard cover everywhere. Everybody's going down. I'm going up against veterans. Like, it's nothing's happening. You know what I mean? So, for me, that is one thing I kind of would have liked to seen removed, but it's still in there, so we'll just play with it, right? Interesting that there's no long range modifier anymore, as we've all seen through the previews and stuff. But that does come down later on.
I do like that in the sense that it will cut down on having to measure, each guy, blah, blah, blah. It's just, your squad.
That's true.
So it might cut down on some of the mechanic stuff.
Yep.
Not mechanics, the minutia a little.
As we're going on to the next part is the taking cover saves. So essentially you're rolling to hit and you're rolling to wound, and then of course your guys would get cover saves if they're in cover. So the soft and hard cover, essentially how players would decide what's what, is very similar to what it was. Except for soft cover now gives you a 5+ cover save. And then hard cover gives you a 4+ cover save. And then if you go down, you get a +2 to that for that cover save. So you could be in a good spot, making those saves and whatnot. So it does change things.
That's pretty interesting. Having a 4+ cover save for hard cover, and then going down in a building, you're looking at a 2+ save on a squad in a building, on top of veterans being there where they're already going to be harder to kill. That's
I
that's
feel
going to
like
be a tough roll.
It is.
I feel like infantry just got a lot tougher, a lot harder for armored elements and stuff to ignore and deal, and to be able to deal with effectively.
Yeah. So it's as soon as you throw in that cover save thing, like hard cover, and I think this is where when you're building your tables, especially for like a pickup game, you really, really need to balance your terrain.
Ugh, boo. No.
Yeah, boo.
Boo. Quit. Pack it up. Sell me all
I'm
your
just
bottles.
saying.
Go play. Nope. Sorry. Go play 40K.
Jason,
You make a thematic table, and it hits the fan where it hits the fan, my friend. That's the bolt action way.
well, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it doesn't have to be thematic. I'm just saying, if you are going to start putting terrain, make sure you're not having frickin' all hard cover on one side.
Well, yeah, I guess.
like the D-Day landing.
Those are bunkers. Those are something else.
You're
You're gonna come up with that in our game in bolt action.
Yeah.
Because it is a historical thematic game. I'm looking at it, at that kind of a balance kind of game for guys to play, right? In that aspect. And I agree with both sides, right? Like it would be good to make it balanced so that you're actually having a fair and fun game. But also because it is historical and a lot of guys will make their tables and, have an idea in their head of fighting in a village or ruins or, you name it, we'll make it kind of thing. So it's going to come up regardless, right?
Yeah, that being said, you're right. You can balance it in a way that still feels thematic and kind of works according to
sure.
I just don't like it. I took away from the initial comments after your follow up. I agree with you. I was taking it as the like the 40K placement mirrored. Yeah, no way. But you can make it roughly. I got a big building here. We can kind of put something over there, or just agree that, hey, I hope you roll good for tableside.
Well, that's just it.
Maybe,
yep.
That's just
maybe that's part of it too. That's part of the fun is, can I overcome this little bit of an unfair advantage?
And it's also on the players. I mean, if you got a player that's gamer, that's hardcore into the rules and whatnot, take full advantage of it. But if it's just beers and pretzels, guys aren't going to even really care so much. But so going forward with that down, the 2+2. The one thing with the down order is if you're not in cover and you go down, you'll get a 5+, just for hitting the deck,
Yeah.
But the down is negated if the fire is at point blank.
Okay.
So I like that.
So if you're at point blank against a building, that cover save they're not getting.
I like that because it's kind of silly the going down.
Maybe not in the building. They might get
and
something
guys
in the building,
guys are right there. 5 feet away from you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm on the ground. You're going to have a harder time to shoot me." Never really sat well, so I kind of like that, and it's easy too. It's just a nice, easy like, "Oh, I'm within 6 inches." Boom, you don't get your cover or your down save.
Yeah. So, and like I said before, there's things like that, and then there's also other weapons that just negate the cover save in general, right? Which is interesting because we're going into weapons. So the one thing before weapons, though, and the one big change, as we haven't even mentioned it, there is no exceptional damage.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, like, it's gone, right?
That is definitely one of those changes that, though contentious in some circles, it's a good change. You know, I when you see two squads shooting at each other across a 12-inch gap or whatever, and one guy just happens to be rolling hot and dropping sixes, like the next thing you know, your opponent has a whole bunch of minuses and is lacking some firepower. Now, I can get that there is some sense of realism in that mechanic, but when it comes to fairness of play and stuff, I get that people just didn't like it or didn't always have fun with it. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I like too that it in a sense gives back some strength to a sniper, because now
Yes.
he doesn't technically do exceptional damage, but he can choose his target. So
yeah, and there's the sniper has other benefits as well, which we'll get to. But yeah, it definitely makes the sniper's role more,
feel a little bit more special
exactly
than the guy that gets to miss all the time, even though he's supposed to hit all the time.
Yeah. So I like that. It also, I mean, not that it took very long to do, but I can see them doing things to kind of increase the speed of the game too. Just little things happen.
Oh yeah, it cuts down roll time and everything. Yeah.
So weapons. So obviously one of the biggest changes that everybody kind of had always talked about was the machine guns.
What? Did they suck in the last edition and the first edition?
So, you mean nobody was taking a platoon of them all the time? 6 or 7?
Yeah. So medium machine guns changed to 6 shots.
Yeah.
Still the same range. Heavy machine guns are 6 shots as well. And I have marked here, they're at 48-inch range with +1 pen.
Nice.
Now,
heavy machine guns,
were they not 36 inches before?
Yeah, they were 36 inches before.
Nope.
Weren't they? Or were
I believe they were
40?
40. No, they were 36. They were 36 maxed out. Yeah.
Yeah, heavy machine guns sucked in the last edition. They sucked. And you got 2 shots.
2 or 3 shots.
Or 3 shots.
3 shots.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Jeez.
So, big change in those. The Germans obviously still get the extra shot.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
That'll be, I mean, I like it though. I think the Germans getting a extra shot for their machine guns is one of those rules that makes sense and is good and isn't annoying to implement. It's I don't want to pick on Tiger Fear, but I will. Tiger Fear sucks. It's dumb. It's stupid. It should just be called the Tank Fear rule if they're going to have it. And I hate it, but I like the machine gun rules is nice.
So yeah, I think positive changes.
Yeah.
Next up is the anti-tank rifle.
Ooh.
What was the range? Do you remember the range on the anti-tank rifle? I think it was 36 as well, was it not?
I think it was 48.
I think it was
I think
48.
it was 48.
I don't have my old rule book with me anymore. So,
I believe.
if it's 48, then it stayed the same. Essentially just 48 plus 2 pen. So.
And do they? Am I wrong? Is there a new rule about anti-tank weapons getting a bonus to hit?
So anti-tank guns, yeah, they get +1 to hit vehicles.
And does an anti-tank rifle count as an anti-tank gun, or is that just talking about the artillery piece?
I think that's just talking about the artillery piece.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
As I was going to say, if anti-tank rifles are good anyway, especially early war, they're cheap, they're mobile, they're good even in late war for dealing with light vehicles. They're mobile. You can throw some pens. You can just use them to pin vehicles. For how much they cost, they're great. So if they do get that +1 to hit, also, that just makes them even better.
Yeah.
So just for reference, the anti-tank rifle is 36-inch range, one shot with a +2 pen from V2.
Yeah, so its range is now increased to 48.
Nice.
Which is awesome.
Where is it here? Yeah. 48, one shot, +2 on the pen. So it's up there now. It's good. As for the anti-tank, it says anti-tank guns, and then in brackets it's AT guns. So it sounds like it's the artillery piece.
Sure.
So, but yes, they get a +1 to hit vehicles. That was my next bulletin, actually.
There you go.
So there's that, which makes them, I guess, more worth taking now for that bonus.
They're viable,
right?
They're viable. Yeah, totally. I liked taking them anyway because it was a cheap counter. Especially, one of my main armies was the airborne. So, not having access to a lot of vehicles, an anti-tank gun was a great way for me to deal with tanks. And they never really did that well at killing tanks, but for was like 80 points or something. It did pretty good at just making tanks not go around them.
Oh, for sure.
So I point them down a street, and I know they're not going to be going down that street, so I can block that out of my head and do anything vehicle wise, outside of that area.
100%. And it's that's the thing with the game too, though, right? Like, because we all get these ideas of these armies that we want to make, not so much in game terms, but more of in history terms, or you have a thematic theme to it, or a unit in history that maybe a relative of yours served in, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you're going through that, you're starting to, how am I going to deal with tanks? Okay, maybe they had this or that, so it's that's the thing with bolt actions. You have both of that style of player in the game. That there's the guys who look into the units, into the rules writers, and there's the other guys that just rule of cool, play those units, and just build those armies and make them look really good on the board, and then play them out, right? So, which I think,
and which I think is some of the more.
I was just going to say, I think is great in both aspects, because it just both have something that can give to the game to make it better, right? So,
and even some of the some of the more competitive players in the scenes, they'll still take light tanks and light vehicles that have 7 or 8 armor in their list because they're trying to, max or use their points efficiently. And sometimes you just can't walk in with a Sherman, so you need something. So throwing a wrench in there and dropping, 1 or 2 anti-tank guns or rifles will put a damper on their spirits real quick.
Totally, yeah.
100%.
And I do like the +1 to hit. It makes those anti-tank guns more effective. Makes people have to think harder about how they're using tanks. So it makes it more exciting. So instead of just tank move on, tank shoot. Okay, well that's all the tank did the whole game. And that's what tanks do 80% of the time. They move as little as possible, and then they shoot the rest of the game. So to see them probably have to be a little bit more mobile.
Yeah.
And get up closer to the infantry than they would want to. It creates more of dynamic game, I think.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Tanks are always a fear factor, right? So even on tabletop terms, you see in a tank, it's kind of like, shit, how am I going to deal with that? Or do I avoid it or whatever, right? So
nice.
Anti-tank gun is a good counter. Keeps them away from that sector. Flamethrowers, they definitely got to change.
My favorite weapon.
So it now states, and I know this would come up every once in a while. So there's no -1 pen for long range. So that's what long range does now. Is gives you a -1 to pen, not to hit, but to pen. So they're not affected by that.
It makes sense.
And this was the other thing that would come up because they were so short ranged. Is they also do not get the bonus for penetration at point blank.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're not penetrating anything anyway.
No. But they clearly state that now, whereas before people were like, well, I'm within 6, but my range is 6 and half is 3. And it's like, well, no, but yes, but no,
Yeah.
So now that's cleaned up. And that's what I do like about the book is that it's been cleaned up quite well.
It is, by the way, Andy, can you hold that book up with a side profile? Yeah. And then show roughly how thick the old one was.
I don't have the old one with me,
but
so
it's like a third thicker.
I can definitely put a snapshot in it when I edit the video. So
yeah,
the book itself is 320 pages, which is huge, right? But it's cleaned up quite well.
Yeah,
right.
And that's what I don't usually advocate for more rules. And I probably play closer to the British style anyway, where I'm a little more loosey-goosey kind of player, beer and pretzel guy, more than an event tournament style competitive player, which seems like what North America is really a lot. But I appreciate that they cleaned up some of it, because some of it was a little bit too, like, just put in a definitive friggin' sentence here for me, pals.
You're too nice, Jason. You're too nice, Jason. It was written terribly. There were rules that were written terribly.
So I appreciate that he took the time, expand the language, make it make sense. And an index. Oh my god, the holy grail.
Ho ho.
So index in here. Just to let you know, the first 56 pages are essentially bits of history and fluff and basic supplies that you need, like a measuring tape. So it's a good portion of the book that's like just extra stuff for you, right? Which is cool. But yeah, and not to mention, they also have the first armies in here, plus the missions and all that stuff. So yeah, flamethrowers. Not done with them yet. Still do the D3 or D3 plus one if they're on a vehicle for pins. They also now give the flamethrower team a pin because of how volatile the weapon was to use. So they didn't know if it was going to blow up in their face or not. And this is whether they hit or not. So
I like that. And I'll tell you what else that does. That makes that one hit wonder have to hit, because what would happen is I would run up. I planned it perfectly. I run out, but I got to run out into the open. I get my flamethrower. I take the shot and I whiff on it, but it's the last dice in the bag.
Yep.
So I'm praying for that next dice in the following turn, and I get it, and then I murder everybody in that squad with nary a penalty for that terrible decision that I just made. So the fact that it just makes it a little bit harder the second time, makes sense to me. Because to be honest, probably you're only shooting it twice in a game anyway. By the time you move up into position, you're talking 2 shots and that thing's done great. So it makes it
you're way too close.
Yeah.
So
I can just imagine that the flamethrower team is running up, and the whole reason that they get that pin is that the guy's laying down, hits that switch, and his buddies behind him yell, "Put on your mask! Put on your mask!" And then the heat wave hits him back in the face.
Totally.
Definitely.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, so it's I think it's a good change. It's doesn't make it the beast of a weapon without some kind of effect on itself, which I like what they did here. It also has something for vehicles on the vehicle damage table, and they may have had this before, but it's the results on the vehicle damage table. They actually get a +1 to the roll because it's the vehicles are carrying that extra fuel for the flamethrower. So, yeah, they become a Zippo. So there's that, which it's nice to see because they're taking into account what this equipment and what these weapons possibly the risk it would have given to the troopers, right? In real life.
And even just game mechanics, it's a high risk, high reward kind of unit.
Yep.
And yeah, it could be on one game the hero of the game, and the next game it's going to shoot the bed.
Yep. So next up we have HE weapons. So AT guns, as we know, a lot of them can fire both shells. This change they made, so AT guns, when they're firing at infantry, they're not firing a big old AP round to blow off the commander's head anymore. They have to fire HE shells at infantry. It specifically says that in the book. That
so does it say if it has the ability to fire HE shells it has to? Or does it say they have to fire it? So if you don't have HE shells as an option, like some of them don't, then that to me indicates that you cannot fire them at infantry at all, which also makes sense. It's stupid to fire an armor-piercing round at a squad of dudes hoping to plug one.
True. Let me find it here and see what exactly.
Most
it
powerful
says.
sniper shot in the table, though.
Well, yeah.
So,
And generally better than snipers, in my experience.
so high explosive. Some weapons, for instance, anti-tank guns, can fire either anti-tank shots using the pen value indicated, or HE shots. If the target is an infantry or artillery unit, the weapon must fire HE. But against vehicles, either armor or soft skin, the player must declare what type of shot the weapon is firing as they declare the target.
Yeah.
And that's all it says.
See how I read that, and I can totally see that it would be interpreted the other way, is that it must fire HE so that you cannot target infantry if it doesn't have HE capability. Which I'm fine with. Like, honestly, if infantry are coming up to your anti-tank gun and there's nothing else to deal with them, you're probably cheesing off anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I assume that most of the profiles, like just the look of the profiles, are the same, right? So, like,
weapon-wise, yeah.
Yeah, so like a medium AT gun is 60-inch range, +5 pen, and then it has like special rules. So the old one was like team fixed HE 1-inch. I assume that
it's identical.
Again, okay.
Yeah, one shot. It's identical. HE1. So there's no like different rules to it except for what it says here with the HE. So
yeah, so like a medium AT gun firing at a squad, instead of just one shot, one kill with a +5, it's one shot, and you have to put that 1-inch template down.
Exactly.
And then use okay. Yeah. That's nice and clear. I like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a FAQ on that eventually. Because Jason makes a good point. Somebody's going to question that and be like, well, it doesn't say you can't. Right? But most weapons, like I think all AT weapons have that HE option.
Yeah, that's what I might be wrong. Because, that's what I was thinking of. Is there's some that don't have that.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, there could be some early war shit that has that maybe. That's like that.
It's just maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Or maybe I'm making it up. I don't know.
Pins for the HEs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. 1 inch is now D2.
Mm-hmm.
2 inches is a D2. Can't remember what it was for.
Okay, I found it.
What do you have for the old stuff?
So, version 2, second edition, 1 inch was D2.
Yeah.
2 inch was D3.
Okay, so
3 inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that changed. The 3 inch was D3.
So that's the same.
4 inch.
And then the 4 inch D6.
So 4 inch has now gone to D3.
Wow. They really reduced the pins, but I believe they make up for that in a later rule. Well, we're talking about indirect fire ignores cover, correct?
Yeah, that's actually my next point here too.
Okay, I'm so good at jumping the gun, but it ties in.
Indirect fire is essentially the same. You still need 6s to hit. There's no cover saves from it. Period. You can still go down and reduce it by half the hits, like it was before, right? A lot of the rules have not changed.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is the stuff that has changed. But so indirect fire, no cover saves. So
which I love, because artillery would constantly fire straight down the barrel, straight down the sights, the entire game. Because I only need a 4 or 5 to hit
your howitzers, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Which I mean, I guess is fine, but I like, okay, well, now I can ignore your cover and actually cause damage.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like that things aren't getting pinned out as easily.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it makes it more of a decision about indirect, because indirect was only ever, I don't have direct sight. That was it. And if you ever could see it, you would always take the direct fire option.
Yeah, if your line of sight wasn't blocked or you weren't shooting past your own dudes, right? So, no, definitely, it makes it more tempting to fire the indirect because of that. Like, if I got 3 mortars, I'm either way, I'm firing indirect. But
well, yeah, mortars you have to fire
right,
indirect,
but howitzers, my French will be firing indirect essentially.
As a little bit of a teaser to what's to come in this. Platoons are definitely looking a little tasty.
Yeah,
the artillery platoon, the heavy weapon platoon. Yeah,
I've been having some conversations with some guys about the selectors and the options and whatnot. But yeah, it'll be interesting to get to that part too, and just it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see, and you'll see a lot more different units, different armies on the board. Next up, we have the multiple launchers. They count as heavy mortars, which I don't remember what they counted as before. Maybe there was heavy mortars, probably was. But they also receive a pin to the firer because of how volatile the weapon was to fire. So
I like that, and maybe it doesn't necessarily represent that they're frightened, but they're also more finicky. The weapons.
Well, the multiple launchers, like when they first started, they're kind of almost like experimental weapons, right? To a point, that is. But they're fairly risky because they're dealing with a lot of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ammo and whatnot, right? So that's that. But that's the rules.
That's going to be interesting.
Yep.
With some of the multiple launchers on vehicle back, like against some of the trucks from the Russian side and stuff, like you're dropping pins on yourself, trying to fire your weapon, and then you want to try and skedaddle out of there. That's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It'll change things up, right?
Yeah, I like it, and it makes you maybe wait for a better shot. Like, am I going to shoot right away just because, or am I going to wait that next turn because I'll have a better grouping, and then I'll take the pin there, and then I'll hopefully be able to shoot the next turn with that penalty, or am I going to space it out and rally in between, or just more decisions to be made, and that's what I mean. Wargaming is just decision making. It's just that's all it is. So any game that adds more decisions you have to make makes it more interesting, I think.
Yeah. So they do have other ones like one shot, shape charge, team weapon, support team weapons, and squad based team weapons. Those are all pretty much the same as what they used to be. Mm-hmm. Shape charge, you essentially never suffer the -1 penetration mod for long range, or you get +1 for pen at point blank range. So
sweet.
Yeah. So that's that.
That's new. That's new. You never got a +1 at close range, did you? Am I being crazy?
No,
you did. You didn't. You never suffered a -1, but now running up, not only are you not getting a -1, you're getting a +1 on your pen. That is cool. I like that. And it makes those pesky pesky Germans want to run up close instead of popping off as soon as they can.
Yeah, so you're not getting that bonus, eh? Is what it's saying, is you're not getting...
Oh, you're not getting a bonus.
So you're not getting the bonus, but you're also not getting the negative for a shape charge.
Oh, wait. Was that a bonus in the old game? Have I been not doing that right? Whoops.
I don't know. Except for...
Or maybe it wasn't, but now they're just making it clear.
Yeah. Like, I don't think those guys ever really got that close anyways. So, not in any of my games.
But no, they pop them off as soon as they can. Yeah.
So, next topic, I guess, is the close quarters. This is slightly changed as well.
Yeah.
So, they do say now that you have to declare an actual assault. It's still a run order, but you actually have to declare it now.
I always did anyway. Yeah, I know it wasn't part of the rules, but
it was kind of like just from other war games, force of habit, right? You've got to take the shortest route possible. So
that is a good rule. Good clarification on a rule.
No skirting around a fence, essentially.
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen people charge around the building corner.
I just
got
this vision of the unit, an infantryman yelling at the top of his lungs, doing a figure eight, and then trying to charge a guy.
Yeah.
So, shortest route possible. Defenders benefit from defensive positions if the charger had to cross obstacles or rough ground. And this is where the shortest route possible could take effect, right? Now, we'll get into the defensive positions after here, but the attackers and the defenders roll at the same time now. Whereas before, if you were caught in open ground, the attackers would strike first.
Yeah.
Okay. Except when the defender has a defensive position. The defender would attack first. So again, charger goes through an obstacle or rough ground. That is defensive position. Later on, it does talk about buildings being defensive positions. If you are on a defensive position and the defender is down, they do not get that.
I like that.
So
they're busy hunkering down, not fighting.
Yeah.
That's a nice balance. Yep.
Yeah.
Which also prevents that I'm on the objective. I'm down the entire rest of the game. Okay. It's harder for me to shoot, but I'm going to stab your face.
Exactly. So, the other change to close quarters is if it is a draw, you fight again and again.
I was hoping for breakdancing duel.
So if it's a continuous draw, you keep fighting until there's a victor. So,
in the same round.
In the same round.
I like that.
So
it'll finish it up one way or the other. A charge is definitive,
and it's still whoever got the most casualties wins, and the other side is broken and is defeated. So there's that part. So two other things that would tie into close quarters is your fanatics. Fanatics count each round as a draw until they win, which is very very strong.
Oh,
okay. The other thing, and this will come up later, Tough Fighters has changed. So Tough Fighters, you don't get another attack. Tough Fighters lets you re-roll your wound roll in the close combat.
Okay.
So that 10-man
I like that.
10-man Soviet squad of SMGs.
Yeah.
They're getting re-rolls.
That's a lot better mechanically than the an additional attack for every success you had.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, fails to damage infantry and artillery can reroll damage roll.
But I honestly feel that combat people are going to be a bit more timid of.
Oh, 100%. Unless you're playing Japanese.
Yeah. And Fnatic, I'm assuming you still have to charge.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? The negate against, even though Fnatic is good, that it keeps you in a tie until they win. You can force them over difficult ground easier now.
Yep.
Because they have to do the direct. They can't dick around. Because I hated that. Because as soon as one guy can reach you, oh well, everybody else is only moving. It's just the easiest thing for players that I don't like to play to take advantage of, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of teleporting troops.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I like it should be used sparingly.
Yeah.
But also occasionally you should overuse it.
Yeah.
Don't use it, but use it.
There is another thing that ties into close combat that I just remembered, and it's more so a unit type or special rule is so engineers when a unit normally assaults a unit in a building, the defender will get defensive positions. The engineers essentially cancel that, so
nice.
They can essentially breach the building and they don't go against defensive positions. So
I love that. It makes engineers useful.
Yep.
Because the only reason anybody took engineers was because most engineer squads you can have a flamethrower.
Pretty much.
That's it. That's the only reason.
And 10 SMGs, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
There's your Tough Fighters.
Imagine that.
But now they actually get to be engineers and do engineering type stuff.
So, and just to touch base on the engineers, because of the building assault, they also have a secondary rule, and it's for an optional rule for like minefields and fortifications. I don't know exactly what that rule is because I never really went into detail on it, but just stating that they do have an optional rule for that too, because there are some optional rules that you can play with that they have in the book.
Nice, which is they've always had rules where they could deal with minefields.
Yeah,
but that was their one thing besides all their weapon options, and it just doesn't come up
for sure.
So I like it. I want to if I have an engineer squad, I want to do engineering type things.
Yep.
Yeah, they have hammers and axes too.
Next up, HQ units. So, as we all know, they've kind of made them more into generic commanders instead of all the 4 ranks that we had in 2nd edition. So your platoon commander, their morale bonus is a +2. The extra orders for snapping 2 is 2, still at 6-inch range. And then you have a company commander, which morale bonus is 4+, and extra orders of 4 at 12-inch range. So
they basically just made first lieutenants and majors
pretty much.
as the characters. Yeah.
So going into a little bit of detail with army building, your platoons will have platoon commanders, of course. You have the option of taking a company commander that is not attached to any specific platoon. So there is that option in there. It doesn't say that you have to take it, but you are able to. Now, when it comes to snap to action, and this actually came up in a conversation the other day, Jason was there about this too. So essentially, after a successful order is made by the commander, they can call for a snap to. So platoon commanders cannot snap company commanders, but company commanders can snap platoon commanders, of course, chain of command, essentially. You cannot activate a snap to on a snap to.
I was just going to ask that question.
It popped up. It popped up yesterday with guys not even having the book and me telling them about the stuff. And that was like the first thing that popped up because somebody was like, oh, I can activate like 16 units, right? Maybe not that many, but it was funny because it's like, I heard it here first. So there's that. So interesting take on that. You can tell, guys were thinking about that already. Like Dayna, it was already in your head. Like, can I? Because that's just a big trickle of so many units, right? You would have to be pretty close to each other in order to do that, but you can't. So
Spoiled for it.
So those are kind of your commanders.
Nice.
I like it because it's very clean. You only have to worry about 2 different types of officers, and on the table, especially with how the new platoon structure works. Like it's not going to be so confusing having like it would have been before, where you have a first lieutenant here, a second lieutenant there, maybe a captain over here or whatever. So no, it's clean. I like it.
So forward artillery observers and forward air observers, interesting change on them. Indirect firing can use their line of sight.
So this is definitely a nice change because people would complain about this all the time. They'd be like,
yeah,
not just in a community, but even on socials and stuff. They'd be like, why can't they draw a line of sight? Why can't they help their indirect firing buddies? It was part of the realism that was there. So.
Mm-hmm. So it's
and it's one more reason to take them. Even though it was because playing British, everybody would say, "Oh, it's the most powerful unit in the game." Oh my goodness, this forward artillery observer is the most powerful unit. It's so unfair that you get it. And I say that's funny that it's the most powerful unit in the game, and yet you never take one.
True.
It's almost as though it's worth 100 points or less. Jesus. So, but now it certainly gives it a much better reason to take it, and especially if you have, maybe a mortar and an artillery piece or something, and you would have normally bought spotters for them. Yeah. That's a cost savings. I mean, it's not a lot. I think they're 10 points each usually, but that's 20 points into the purchase of your forward observer, plus he gets his own abilities. I mean, it's a bit of all your eggs in one basket, but
it is, but it also makes them more useful
Yeah, totally.
Compared to either like forgetting about them in the building because they've already
They did their thing.
unleashed their payload, and not only forgetting them after the game because you're missing a model, but now you can think of, you actually think about your positioning of this unit. Okay, you know what? He actually has a secondary effect. You know what? I need to think about where I'm actually going to put him and not just
totally.
So I like it. I definitely like it. You're going to see them on the field a bit more. That's for sure. And speaking of which, another big change, and I haven't seen it in any of the armies. There are like no free units anymore,
which I'm fine with.
So Soviets don't get their anti-tank, conscripts anymore because it was all free. You upgraded them free,
I was never anti-free units, but I was never pro either. It just didn't seem like a clever way to differentiate an army. I think there's much better rules you can put in to make it feel different, or much better text you can apply.
Oh, 100%.
Like giving them a free unit. I mean, just make the units reflect. If you want to reflect that, make them cheaper, or something, or make them more effective in some way.
Yeah, for sure. I think what did they do here? Oh yeah. So what they've done now, and I'll just give you a brief thing with the Great Britain, their artillery support rule, army special rule. So essentially the artillery observer can now fire a second shot.
That perfect.
Right?
So they're not free, but they're twice as effective? Sure.
So a forward observer, either air or artillery, 75 points for a regular. So they're also cheaper.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And bring them.
That's where,
Jesus, those things are great.
That's where Jason's gonna go. Bam.
Bam. And just everybody. Why people don't take them? I don't understand. So even when they do badly, even when they don't hit, I've seen them disperse entire armies.
Yep.
Or just people won't. I can play a refused flank, and they won't because they don't want to clump up, just because I have one model.
Yep.
I love it.
So that was HQ. Unit special rules. Dun, dun, dun. Let's start off with some cavalry. So cavalry do not benefit from the down order.
They never did.
Their cover saves are reduced by 1. So
that's
soft cover 6, hard cover 5. They do get a recce escape move, which I think they had before.
Yeah.
Being mounted, they have tough fighters. And
nice. They didn't get that automatically before, but now they're making them easier to kill with gunfire, which is a pretty accurate reflection. And just having played cavalry, they are hard to hide, man.
Yeah.
You get 8 cavalry. They're not like 8 infantry where I can kind of duck them behind a building or something. I mean, somebody sees these freaking horses.
Oh, for sure. They also do get an extra regroup dice, so 2d6 after combat, pretty much.
Yeah.
So they can disperse fair distance, I should say. Maybe. Engineers, as we talked about before, they can assault buildings and the defender gets no defensive position, and then they get minefields and fortification special optional rule stuff. Fanatics, they ignore the negatives for morale from pins as long as there's 2 men in the unit. And close quarters, as we mentioned before, they keep fighting until wiped out or they win. So, and their combats count as draws. So, Fieldcraft. Now, I can see this rule being attached to certain units, maybe like mountain troops, that kind of stuff. They treat rough ground as open ground.
Nice. I like that.
So,
especially if charging.
Exactly. Right. So, Infiltrator. So this is a new one. So units that have Infiltrator, they take, when they take cover saves, while it does not have a advance or a run order on it, it receives a +1 to their cover save.
I like that.
To a maximum of 2? Or because that could be potentially pushing them to a +1 or a 1+.
Ones always fail.
Oh, okay.
I'd say ones always fail. Yeah. So
max they're going to get is the 2.
2.
So,
okay.
But I like that anyway. Because you're not going to have a whole lot of them. B, I like that just thematically they're always the skulkers, or they have the extra what do they call that? The detritus they attach all over their uniform and stuff to hide them better.
Like
so
the
kind of
and whatnot.
Yeah, kind of explains that a little bit.
Yep. There's another section here for them. So spotters, observers, snipers, and other units with infiltrate deploy anywhere on the table more than 12 inches from the enemy.
Oh, instead of just your own half, hey?
So this is the part, this is a section that I found interesting. It's actually when you're doing the game. So
do the game.
Yeah. Let me just find out here where I read it. So essentially it is, start of the game. They actually have like a phase thing for the game. So number 1, infiltrators.
Oh.
Whereas before, it was determined in the missions.
Which sucked.
Right?
It sucked
because
it was never clear.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it was like, oh, do it before units are deployed. Oh, do it after. Oh, you can't deploy. Or no.
Or nothing.
Or no.
Or it won't say anything.
Or no units. Or it's like, okay, well, so how do we follow it? And it just seemed like anytime it came up, everybody was kind of on a different line, right? Like they just...
Yeah.
So now they say... Special rule. They are also subject to this, blah, 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 blah. Infiltrators that are not left in reserve are deployed in the start of the game phase. Both players put an order die in the bag for every unit that is using infiltrator rule, including spotters, and therefore needs to be deployed now. They then draw dice, and the player whose die is drawn must deploy one of their units described below. Continue, blah, 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 blah. Infiltrators can be deployed anywhere on the table so long as they're more than 12 inches from any enemy unit that is already deployed, including enemy infiltrators. So, and then it goes on.
Does it say...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, does it say anything about deployment zones? Because that can get a little tricky.
Yeah, just says anywhere. Yeah. Anywhere on the table, so long as they're more than 12 inches from any enemy unit that is already deployed. So your army is not deployed yet.
Yeah.
So it's just infiltrators. So if I have a sniper and that's it for infiltrators, I can deploy it in your zone apparently.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
but then the risk is the other guy can also play, because enemy doesn't have to deploy 12 inches away. You have to deploy 12 inches away, so he can deploy when it comes to their deployment. I mean, he's like, okay, here's your sniper, here's my squad right next to him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you still are going to be forced to, or you probably aren't going to want to do that. But I like having options, and even if they're bad, it's decisions.
So yeah, so essentially it's infiltrators, and then there's any other start of the game rules. So some units have like a scout move that they can move, and then essentially you collect all your order dice and put them in the bag, and then you start deploying the rest of your units. So that's a big thing for infiltrators. Motorcycles, very similar to cavalry, slightly different. No benefit from cover, or no benefit from down. Sorry. They get a recce escape move, of course. They can't shoot while they move. They can't assault. If they're assaulted, they get a recce move. And then they have 2d6 regroup as well. So sound a little shittier, but
but they're not talking about the trike. They're talking about the motorbikes, the Africa Corps.
They're talking
motorbike squad, and
yeah.
The welly bikes, I think, fall under that. So, nobody ever took those squads.
Yeah, that's true.
But
shirkers. So these sound harsh.
Shirkers be shirking.
So they count their pins as double.
Yeah, that's
for order tests.
That's what it was,
Morale
wasn't it?
And routing. Probably. I never took them. And they always have to take an order test, even if they don't have a pin.
Yeah.
So
that one was there for sure. Yeah, they're tough to take, which I like, especially if you're playing scenarios or something where
that's your only option, or that's what you have to take, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's where that comes into effect. 'Cause, I mean,
who's going to voluntarily take
most players probably aren't going to take them, right? So, unless your name's Dayna, he might take them.
Absolutely.
Well, how cheap are they?
Cheap.
I mean, they're cheap.
Troops.
Yeah, they're probably like 3 points.
Yeah, they give you points.
They're like
a garbage rifle is a garbage rifle.
They're like snotlings for your goblin army there, Jason. So here's another big change as well. Snipers. So they get a +1 to hit when they're scoping in. So boom, there's a big change, positive change. How many times have we seen them miss? You know, so
every time.
They give them that bonus when they scope in. Hits go straight to damage. There is no cover saves. So you still have to roll to damage, but opponent gets no cover, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They also get a +1 to damage against infantry and artillery.
I like that. Okay.
And they get to pick the squad leader in the units as a casualty.
Okay, so they're not targeting LMGs.
No, because somebody else can just pick it up and fire.
Which makes sense.
You know.
But the squad leader is hard to replace.
Yes.
And applying that negative modifier to leadership is still worth it.
Yeah. So,
unless you're Germany.
True.
Oh, well. And that makes Germany, that rule, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more potent, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tank hunters. So when they win an assault and score damage results, you actually roll on the normal anti-tank penetration rather than the superficial. So this is a change. There are now 2 charts for vehicle damage.
Okay.
So superficial has a bit of there's a little bit of a change into that. Stuff like your steering is compromised or your engine is damaged compared to the full damage table, which is essentially the same thing as it was before. But we'll go into that section a little later.
Well, I kind of like that because superficial damage used to be basically stunned. Essentially, it was almost always just.
So since we're here, let's go through this. Screw it, we're doing it live. So, like I said, your full damage result for armored vehicles table is the same. Okay. Crew stun, immobilized, on fire, and then 4, 5, 6, you're knocked out.
Yep.
Superficial results now, which essentially are, I believe.
Okay, Andy, I rolled a 1. What is it?
Well, if you essentially equal the guy's armor, right?
Well, no, I know that. I'm saying I rolled a 1 on the chart.
Well, give me a minute. I was going to go through them, okay? So if you rolled a 1, it's a crew stunned.
Damn it.
So you essentially add an additional pin marker. It goes down. And then if there's an additional crew stunned on it, it gets another pin. Number 2 is a steering compromised. So essentially almost each of one of these is giving you an additional pin. So this gives you additional pin. So this vehicle can make 1 less pivot when moving. Which leads us into something else with vehicles, which I'll have to talk about here too. So they get 1 less pivot. Second steering compromise result makes the vehicle cannot pivot anymore. And a further steering compromise, so if you get 3 of them, you count as immobilized. Right?
Makes sense.
So, number 3, turret jam. Add an additional pin. A turret is jammed in the position, same as how it was before.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what it says here. If the damage is caused by an assault, the turret is jammed in the arc that the majority of the assaulting models have come from. If there's multiple turret suffers, you would have to randomly pick one. And if you suffer another turret jam, yeah, it doesn't even say anything about another turret jam. Oh, if you don't have a turret jam, it just goes to steering compromised instead. So, number 4 is engine damage, additional pin. You receive the slow special rule for the rest of the game.
Oh.
Ooh.
If the vehicle had the fast rule, then it loses it instead. And if the vehicle already has a slow rule, its speed is halved. And then any further engine damage, you're immobilized. So,
jeez.
So, and this is just superficial. So,
sorry, go ahead.
Immobilized as well. Additional pin, cannot move the rest of the game. Yada yada yada. If a further immobilized result is suffered, the crew abandon the vehicle and is considered knocked out. And then number 6 is you're on fire. So
nice.
You get additional pin, and then you have to make a morale check. If it's passed, you put out the fire. So if you fail, obviously you're knocked out. But that's essentially the superficial. Open topped hit on top armor, you add +1 to the roll. So there's that. So tank hunters, which essentially are your guys who they give grenades to, right?
Old sticky bombs.
Yep. So they get that, and then they also don't suffer from the tank fear when they're assaulting.
Nice.
So
Sweet.
yeah,
I like that second chart a lot.
Yeah,
it makes it way more dynamic than just I get a pin.
Exactly. So it's because you're going to see more tanks in the game too now, right?
With the new platoons, yeah. With the new platoons, yeah.
So there's that. And then the next one is Tough Fighter, which is, as I mentioned, you fail to damage infantry or artillery, you can re-roll a damage roll in close combat.
Sweet.
Artillery changes here. This one I like.
Artillery.
Crews for artillery all must be within 1 inch of the gun.
Thank God. Jeez Louise. Holy crap. I can't tell you the amount of times I've hit with something and these guys are getting cheeseburgers and doing anything but working that stupid gun. Meanwhile, I have all my guys next to the gun and I get hit with a 1 inch template and I'm goodbye artillery.
You're being generous with how many casualties or how many hits they get. Right? So yeah, it's a good change. I know there was a couple guys who got a little bent out of shape because of that at a tournament in Vegas. So surviving, Jason?
Oh yeah, barely.
So yeah, direct line of sight is from the barrel of the gun. If you're firing indirect, it's line of sight from any crew member. Gun shields are soft cover from small arms in the front. And you actually only count the crew for cover, like seeing if they're in cover, and not the gun. The gun is just completely ignored. So same thing with damage. Gun is ignored. Now guns can still be abandoned, if the crew is destroyed. Essentially now they're telling you to place their dice on the gun in a down position, but it's not returned to the bag. And other crews can still go and recrew the guns. But if it's not crewed, it counts as soft cover. If it's being fired past, kind of thing, or if you're using it as cover. If the enemy gets within an inch of it, it destroys the gun and it's removed for artillery. Smoke counts as soft cover and dense terrain. And then there's a little thing here with multiple launchers. If it fires smoke, this might be the same as it was before. I never really used multiple launchers that much. If you land a hit, you can pick D3 plus 1 additional points on the table that are within 6 inches to plop down more smoke. So that's artillery in a nutshell, really.
Sweet.
Couple positive changes, right? So we're going into vehicles now. So you guys still good for time?
Yeah.
Just to let you know, at 10:15, I got cut.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, you whenever you want, you can just head out or whatever. We'll continue, so it's all good.
No
If you need to go earlier or something. So yeah, vehicles essentially failing like morale checks or order checks, I should say. If they reach like the end of the edge of the board, or they move off the board, they're actually destroyed now. Whereas before you would just like bumper car to the edge of the board and that was it.
Which is really good because every so often some of those LRDG armies would be able to pop on, come on back.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like I said, there'll be more tanks on the board too. So, you know, if they get some pins on them, it's going to take effect. And if they're just kind of turtling it at the back line, well, you're putting yourself at risk. So, okay, so do you remember how the pins and stuff worked with vehicles, where like inexperienced could be pinned, regulars had a chance to roll, and then veterans had a better chance to roll and ignore the pins, kind of thing. So essentially, now they've changed it to inexperienced and regulars will take pins from heavy weapons. Period. There's no roll to see if they ignore it or not. Whereas veteran vehicles, if the weapon is able to damage it, they can essentially negate the pin. So they changed that, pretty much made inexperienced and regulars having to take the pin. So yes, movement has changed for vehicles slightly, as you may have noticed with the damage table, and they talked about pivots. So essentially your tracked units, which are tracked, half tracked, they have 9 for movement still, but they get 2 pivots. And so regular tanks now have 2 pivots compared to their 1 from last time.
One sec, Andy. You keep cutting in and out, and your video keeps dropping.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking at a pig picking his nose.
Yeah, I still have it on my side, so I'm not sure what's going on, but you guys can hear me okay right now?
For a little bit of the last stuff, I didn't quite get.
Okay.
But as long as the recording has it, that's fine.
Yeah, I won't know till the end, but so essentially your vehicles, or your movement for your vehicles, has changed.
Okay.
So you now have where is it here? So vehicles, like the pivots, they get more pivots now, right?
Do they?
Yeah. So
Okay.
So tracked vehicles and half-tracked vehicles, their advance movement is 9. They get 2 pivots when they advance. They run at 18, and they get 1 pivot when they run. So tracked vehicles, half-tracked vehicles. So that's tracked, including like tanks.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
regular tanks, where before they
got the
1 pivot at an advance and no pivot at a run.
Which is silly considering how they operate.
Yeah.
It actually should be the opposite. They should get multiple pivots, and the wheeled vehicles should get fewer. But
so wheeled vehicles have the same amount of pivots for both running and advancing, and then their movement is they can advance at 12 and then run at 24.
Okay.
So that's the change for those, for the movement, essentially.
Just extra pivots, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's going to make tanks more maneuverable in game. Vehicle mounted LMGs, MMGs, and HMGs fire 3 shots. They're essentially halved, as we've seen in the previews, right? Pintle mounteds do not halve their shots against flak. Here we go. Here's another one. HE shots visits vehicles. The template is placed on the center of the vehicle. So
Thank goodness.
you can't just clip the vehicle and then try to clip 5 guys, burgers and fries.
Yeah. Yeah, holy God. I swear to God, people like, oh, it's got the fender of this vehicle, and it's got the barrel of the gun on this vehicle, so pretty much they both could explode. Who knows? Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah. Indirect firing, that's like that clips vehicles, will hit the front or the sides or the rear as normal, not on the top. And that's from like hitting something else, right? Additional pen mods for heavy weapons at long range. So long range mod -1, except for like HE and flamethrowers, as we talked about before. So
Sweet.
yeah, vehicle damage table. We went through that, so there's that. Vehicle wrecks, if they stay on the board, they count as impassable. Not sure how people were playing them, but I don't think I ever really crossed over them.
Yeah, I would always. Here's the thing: I would pretend as though they were impassable.
Yeah.
And then get none of the benefits for cover or anything like that. But that's just because I'm an idiot and play games in my head more than. That's why I lose so often, or one of the reasons.
Do you guys remember how vehicles interacted when assaulting infantry and or other vehicles?
Yep.
I don't think I really seen it happen in any games that I played.
It didn't happen very often, no.
So I don't really know if much has changed in it, but it looks like essentially with infantry, if you fail your check, you're dead. If the vehicle hits you, including fanatics. And then vehicle on vehicle, there's like an order test at -3 mod that you have to do. And then you would roll a d6 and add your damage value to the number roll. Highest score is the winner. If it's the same result, you're both losers. As funny as that sounds.
Yep. That's how it was.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then essentially the loser is destroyed outright if it's a soft skin. Loser is armored vehicle, roll on the charts. If the loser has higher armor value, it's a superficial hit damage.
Okay.
If the loser has equal or lower, it's full damage.
Oh wow! Okay.
And then each vehicle would suffer a pin in addition to any other pins from results. So
I like that more of the you play stupid games, you get the appropriate reward there.
True. You get big prizes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's just say that when you roll that 10 plus armor vehicle into a soft skin, there is a satisfying crunch that you can hear in your own head.
Fair enough. Yeah. Infantry assaulting vehicles. Tank fear does not apply if they're open topped. So pintle mounted. Hey, remember them?
Yeah.
Nice.
So that doesn't happen. If infantry does not have anti-tank weapons, they will always use the superficial chart for damage. And then if vehicles are immobilized by the attack, they take a morale check. If failed, they're destroyed. So.
Oh. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes It makes an infantry assault against the vehicle a little bit more
Potent.
worrisome, right? So,
And it should be. If they're going to bring in more tanks, it's great. Make them play the game.
Yep.
Not just Juggernaut.
Yeah, exactly. The new rule with the enemy proximity with transports. Enemy empty armored transports are forced to make a morale check. If they pass, they stay. If they fail, they're destroyed now. So back to the old rule of the enemy is closer to your transport, they were automatically destroyed.
Now they at least get a leadership check.
Yeah, the armored transports do.
Yeah.
So
I like that. It makes them a little bit more viable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we're going in, we're on the transport section now, but mounting transports. Jason, I know you used transports a fair bit. It's saying you can only mount them if they're stationary.
The transports?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Is that how it was before? Like you couldn't.
I'm trying to remember. It's been I played that list with that, but I haven't played in a year. I think with them.
Yeah.
If I remember, you have to load onto them. They couldn't have moved.
Okay. So yeah, there's that. Vehicles that have been boarded can't advance or run. And then also transport foo bars. There's no foo bar. It just goes straight to the down order. There's no roll on the table for transports. So interesting on that.
Yeah, it would be kind of hard to justify a couple of troopers hopping up in the back of a truck and one trips, falls, shoots his buddy in the head.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much. Officers in HQs aboard transports. They work as normal in soft skins and open tops. Now, if your vehicle or your transport is fully closed, so their bonuses and stuff only work on the transports being carried, like the transport units being carried. So if you're open topped, you can spread the love. If you're closed top, the love stays inside.
Is there any closed top armored transports in the Second World War?
I think the French have.
Oh, they might. Yeah, they might.
So yeah, the morale doesn't extend past, like, if it's fully enclosed, right?
But 99% of the time, you're cool.
Yeah. So effects on passengers when like vehicles destroyed, your units would take hits. There's no saves on that. So
okay, I like that.
None of that. So, yeah, vehicle special rules. Armored all around. There's no pen modifiers applied for pen when shooting at sides, rear, or above.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a command vehicle special rule, which adds morale bonus of +1 to itself and other friendly vehicles within 12. U-Men snap to action is 1 extra dice on friendly vehicles, 12 inches, except command vehicles, of course. The fast special rule, tracked vehicles basic move is now 12 inch for an advance and 24 for a run.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So probably like a Panzer II or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Medical vehicles. I don't know if this changed or not, but infantry and artillery within 6 count as if they're within 6 inches of a medic. So
that's the same.
Yeah.
Which always made it kind of dumb to take, because you can take a medic, get the same effect, and it's easier to be within 6 of a
Yeah.
Because you can maneuver around it. I don't know.
It's probably one of those rules that was made because of the just the scenarios, right?
Yeah. Nobody's taking them anyway.
One-man turrets, order checks for advance you have to take. You can fire either the main gun or any rear-mounted MG, but not both.
Okay.
So it makes
I
it
think that
interesting.
stayed the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that stayed the same. Yeah.
Okay, because I know there was a lot of talk about main guns and rear-facing guns on the same mounting. Open top can take pins from small arms, of course. If assaulted by infantry, destroyed if it's been damaged. It's an auto destroy, which I think isn't the same as what it was before. And then hit on top, add an additional +1 to the damage roll, which sounds about the same. They did throw out amphibious in here as well. I'm not sure if that's a new one or not. I doubt it, but essentially they can cross water at half speed.
Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah. Recce, they get an escape reaction as normal. That has to take them out of sight or improve its cover save. So
that's the same too. Well, except for the cover
save now. Yeah. So you have an option, right? So reinforced front armors +1 damage value given to the front entry, which sounds the same. Turret rear-mounted MGs can fire in the opposite arc of the main gun, and you can fire the main and the rear-facing MMG at the same time. So
as long as it's not a one-man turret.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where it changed or clarified that question. I can't fire this at a different target because all your weapons had to fire at the same target, right? Unreliable, suffer 1 pin, gains another pin. Weak side armor shots count as rear shots, so +2 pen. What else we got here? Buildings have changed a little bit. Essentially, you can advance or run into a building now. Don't get excited. Don't get excited. Hold on. Because this is what happened to me. Because I instantly thought, I could advance into a building and still shoot. No. Now, why? I ask. So, all your models must get within an inch of the building in order to actually go in the building.
Oh, okay, that's big. Because it used to be just one model.
Well, and you had to be near an opening.
Yeah.
And that's what it says here, is the model reaches an opening, right?
Oh, okay. Good. Good.
Now, in saying that, with that rule, this is where the advance takes effect. If you think, hey, I'm going to take an advance order and try to make it in there, and you don't make it in there, at least you still get the fire with an advance order if you're outside of the building.
Oh, okay. I see.
So,
but then again, if you had given it a run,
you're in the building.
You would have been in the building. So
yeah. Tactical choices.
So by doing an advance order and it gets you into the building, it concludes the activation, so there's no firing, and it specifically says that. For buildings, you can deploy in buildings if it is completely within your deployment zone.
Oh.
Okay.
So
I like that.
There's no more, a third of this building's in my deployment zone. I'm deploying in it, and now I'm like 6 inches closer to the objective in the middle,
Yeah.
Officers snapping 2 and morale bonus applies to the above and below floors. And within 6 inches of 12 inches of an opening that he can shoot from. So he does have a little bit of a bubble. They do talk about large buildings in this as well. So essentially, you don't want to go bigger than an 8-inch by 8-inch for a section in a building. They recommend going 6 by 6. So sections that are greater than your standard move cannot be ran through in 2 sections. So how if you gave a run order, you can run up a level or you can go through 2 sections. So if something's more than your basic advanced move, you can't go through 2 sections. So
okay, I kind of like that because you can tailor terrain. If you're making a big factory floor or something,
yeah,
you can kind of tailor it.
Well, it's also like those factories that I have, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, you can tailor it to fit that rule a little bit.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Scooting. The normal openings, 2 men per opening. But they do mention now, and I don't remember seeing this previous, squad-based MGs. The loader takes a spot.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I like that. The essentially now the MG takes up that opening.
Exactly.
Which makes sense. It was always kind of dumb that you get the machine gun and one guy trying to sneak a shot beside him.
Yeah. They do clarify flat roofs as well. They do say that on flat roofs, it just counts as another level of the building, and you can fire 6 models from each side of the building now.
Oh wow! Okay, so they specify.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot different because people would put them on the roof and fire everybody.
Exactly. It's essentially just another level now. HEs visits buildings. No cover saves, even if you're down.
Yeah,
that's reasonable. Yeah.
Just blowing up a room,
blowing up a building.
So, indirect fire visits the building is pretty much the same. It comes plummeting down through levels.
And you roll per level. Yeah.
Yeah. Shape charges against buildings. Against a unit in the building, that is. Counts as being hit by a 2-inch HE weapon. So that's different.
For those German players who have some spare Panzerfausts.
Airstrikes against buildings. So an air observer can call for a strike against a unit inside the building, with line of sight, of course, to that unit. So when the aircraft arrives, pins are placed on the units within 6 inches of measuring the range from the building itself.
Ooh.
And then you would follow indirect fire against units in buildings to determine what floor it hits. There's no saves against it. And if the aircraft inflicts 10 or more hits before a down order, the building would collapse. So just because there's the different planes that could come in, right? So they changed that a little bit.
Somehow, Warlord has made buildings more dangerous.
So artillery, your aiming point as normal. But if there's a building in range, you would roll a dice for each unit in the building, as well as other units in range, including other units in other buildings. There's no saves. And of course, the total hits by all heavy howitzer hits. If it's 10 or more, the buildings collapse, right? So empty buildings could be targeted. Assaulting units in buildings, we talked about that a few times here. Defensive positions, all that stuff. The winner, though, can regroup into the building.
Nice.
So, makes sense that you're attacking the building, you win the combat, but you're still sitting outside the door.
Yeah.
So,
I stabbed everybody through the peephole.
So yeah, we're at this kind of point now. We're looking at bunkers as well. It's kind of where my notes had left off here, but bunkers can only be accessed through doors, so you can't run through that little peephole.
Aww.
Units inside do get a +2 to their cover saves against all weapons except flamethrowers. Bunkers cannot be set on fire. They're not destroyed by 10 hits, but rather 12 or more from HE, including airstrikes or artillery. Then the bunker will collapse. So that is everything up to arranging a game of bolt action.
Nice.
So with that, I think that's probably a pretty good place to stop. But so far, like, those are the main changes of the game. And I was actually fairly shocked at how many there are, even as little as they are.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. But honestly, I'm kind of happy with most of them. I think it's going to improve the game.
There's
at least make it different. You know, like a little.
There's a lot of micro changes. You know, there's a lot of little tweaks, a lot of little things that I see improving the flow of the game, but also improving the opportunities and the chances to do something else in the game. You're not just stuck in a particular position that a lot of people have just come to rely on. Like, it's good changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so too. And like I said, there's a lot of cleanup in the rules and just how things are worded and positioned in the book. You can see just from my notes too that, you know, there are some things that kind of slightly overlap, but they're in pretty decent order of how things go. Like,
nice.
It was from start to finish with my notes for what I seen changed. And yeah, I just went through the sections, right? So, yeah, as you continue on and you go forward to start playing the games, like, from what I can see for arranging the game, the startup thing with the infiltrators and all that stuff has changed, of course. But now it looks like you end up rolling for the different kind of battle scenarios and stuff, right? And from what I remember is I think you can make up to like 36 different types of missions.
Nice.
So essentially, just a quick brief here before Dayna has to get going. But you know, you roll for victory conditions. You would roll for your deployment zones. You would roll for your deployment type. And then you would do the start of the game phase, which is the infiltrator thing and all that stuff, right? So, essentially, familiar names: seek and destroy key positions, breakthrough, top secret, demolition, hold until relieved. And then your deployment zones are essentially it's long table edges, which is like Dawn of War, or quarters, which really hasn't changed. I think they got rid of the circle one in the middle, maybe. And then, deployment types. Here it is. Medium engagement, prepared positions, and then fog of war. So they still have the circle in the middle. So that it hasn't really changed that much for the missions. It's just now they can be comboed up in so many different ways now. So
much better than the 12 scenarios, 3 of which were garbage. So the 9 scenarios that people played 6 scenarios. There was another 3 that were okay, but not super fun. So I think it just adds more variety, and it gives you a little bit of a toolbox to generate your own scenario a little bit easier, even, if you want to get specific or change it up for an event, or, reach into this toolbox, use some of these things, pop in something of your own, bada bing, bada boom, you got a D-Day.
Yeah, exactly. And they, essentially every game is 6 turns, and then you roll off for a 7th.
Nice.
So yeah, there's that. And then essentially after that you would just go into force selection, and this is where it gets a little feisty. Nice. Which I think, I don't know if we really have time for it.
That might be its own.
That is its own episode, yes, for sure it is.
But I just
that's going to be both tactics and discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
But just super quick.
Yep.
I do like the direction that's going in, because every single army for the last 3 years, at least, has been the same.
Pretty much.
Everybody designs them the same because that's what works. Every list has the same options generally. So I like that this adds way more flexibility than what we've had access to.
Agreed, for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see the different armies, excited to see what players come up with, good or bad. Each of my armies will probably have a different kind of theme to them, different something or other. But I'm liking it. Shout out to Red Claw for getting this to me. Thank you very much. I'll be sharing it with the community for getting games in the next few weeks until release. So that will be fun. We'll definitely go through the other stuff in the book, especially the army composition, building, platoon, selectors, all that stuff, because that is a point where players are really digging into it to figure out what I can and cannot do. And the whole army building has changed. So
Sweet.
That's good. Thanks you guys for being on here. I know it's been a while. I know it's a long one too. So appreciate it. And I'm just super excited for new edition, more of these kind of discussions and talks, and having you guys on as well. And then running more events too, as I know Dana's definitely excited for that stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
And then of course Jason always helps me out as well. So it's always good to see the stuff come together.
Sweet.
So yeah, hope everybody enjoyed. Hope you guys enjoyed as well, being the guests for the episode. And we'll have more. It's a new edition. There'll be some new content. I'll try to get some vids of some of the new minis, which I have a hold of as well. So
lucky guy. Yeah. Lucky boy.
So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoy. Let us know in the comments. Let us know maybe we got something wrong. Let us know. I'm cool with that. But again, thank you for joining, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Did you plug the Patreon? We need to plug the Patreon.